Alrighty, welcome back. Today we are going to be doing another Dokkan battle guide. Now, specifically in today's guide, this is not going to be one that is just like a straight up beginner's guide. This is going to be an account progression sort of guide, right? Where I want to help you and give you a sort of roadmap and give you some benchmarks for where you can deem your account to be and where you should be focusing your time if you are in specific stages of the game. So what we're going to be doing is dividing this video into 3 sections. The beginning section, like you are someone that is new or you're making a new account and what you should be doing first. The second stage is going to be the mid game after you've done all the things from the beginning stages and how you're going to move forward. And then once you are through that, we are going to be at the end game stage. What does an end game Dokkan player do on the daily basis, and what is the routine and stuff like that that you should be focusing on, and different points of emphasis between each part. So if that is something that you find interesting, stay tuned if you need some help, and hopefully in this video I could sort of get you to where you want to be, right? This is an account here, what you were looking at. This is the 02 Hero global account. And if you're somebody who is unfamiliar, what I did was back in June, I took this account from the ground up, level 0, started it brand new, and kind of took you through the process of getting it to, you guys can see it, rank 535 with a bunch of different summonable LRs. And believe it or not, you can do this too. And I think with a guide like this could help you. And if you are somebody that is brand new to the game, I highly recommend that instead of this video, you watch the beginner's guide, which will be linked in the pinned comment. Where I will explain to you the very bare minimum steps of the game, right? Little things that you might not know. But for the main focus of this video, I want you to have a basic understanding of how the game works, what you're going to be doing, and stuff like that. Because if we did literally all the nooks and crannies, this would be like a 3-hour long video, where I aim for this one to be a little bit shorter than that. So the basic understanding that I want you to have is how to play the game, how to feed dupes into characters, how to progress characters and stuff like that, and how to farm stones. And if you don't know, there are separate videos on the channel that explain all of that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the first step of the account progression, and that is going to be the beginning of the game. Alrighty, so it is a little bit tough to show this one, but I will make this one brief. The first thing that you want to look into is the greatest warrior missions that are going to be at the main menu tab. This is going to be a little tab that says the greatest warrior, and there's going to be a base form Goku on there. On the base form or the greatest warrior missions, it is going to take you through various steps of the game and how to do them, and you are going to be able to sort of get some stones from that and amass a free LR Goku from the Saiyan Saga that fights Nappa. Now, this is going to be what is known as version Z Goku in the community, and he is going to be one of the first characters that I want you to work on. But once you've kind of gotten into that, where I want you to go from there, after you've done this and you've done that and you've opened up this growth tab, I want you to go over to the Ginyu Force Special Training tab. Now, like I said, in this video, I'm not going to go over literally every part of this process, but what you're going to want to do is go in here and play all of these stages, all 5 of these stages to be specific, and max out these characters via the farming process for them. I will do one run of them to give you an idea of what it looks like, just so we are all on the same page, right? This is how it's going to look. You're going to always want to go to the left here and grab these extra ones, because this is just going to give you more per run. And then what you want to do is, when you can, just put it on auto and then let it go. And then we are going to fight against Thouser here, and we are going to get a copy of the character that we need. We are going to rinse and repeat this process until all 5 of the characters are maxed. Then once all 5 of the characters are maxed, we are going to be given an LR team or Captain Ginyu in the Ginyu Force team, right? So that is the quintessential first step into making progress in Dokkan, right? Is having our first team, and then I will show you what that team looks like here in a moment. But like I said, we are going to repeat this process, do this a bunch of times until we have all 5 of the members. Per each typing, there's going to be a member of the Ginyu Force. So for AGL, it is Birder, and it's going to be very coinciding to their, the colors of the Ginyu Force members, right? Where Birder is blue, Jace is red, Goldo is green, Ginyu is purple, and then Raccoon is physical. So Raccoon, yellow, Ginyu, physical, Ginyu, intelligence, Goldo, tech or technique, Jace, strength or STR. I'm not used to using the regular words. And then Birder, AGL or agility. So again, once we're going to repeat this process, we're going to feed in the SSRs, we're going to max these characters out, and this is a very streamlined process that isn't going to require a vast explanation. But once we get to that point and we have our first team, let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. Okay, so now you guys can see we have the Ginyu Force team. This is exactly how it is going to look for you. You're going to have an LR Captain Ginyu, and then each of the members rainbowed and easy aid. Now, you might be wondering, how do you easy aid the characters? I'm glad you asked. I'll be showing you that right now. Before I show you the Easy A, I need to mention that we need to do the Team Bardock version of this as well, and this is literally just going to be the same exact process where you go into the event, you farm up the characters, you max them out, and then you're going to have a team that looks just like this, but the LR is going to be an LR Team Bardock, and then there's going to be the 5 members that you see on the screen here. So now that we have that out of the way, we're going to have 2 beginners teams that we can use, and this is going to help us in our process for acquiring stones. Now, like I said, what we want to do is Easy A these characters, so let's move on to that step. Okay, so once you have the characters Easy Aid, if you are confused on any of the process, there will be, again, a link to another guide in the description for how you're going to be progressing these teams to their max. There's an Extreme Z area that you can do. You will see it in the Challenge tab right over here, and you will see that these events are right over here on the Challenge tab, the Extreme Z area for the Ginyu Force Saga, as well as Team Bardock. So those are the first things that we need to do as beginners, and that is going to be our first kind of big step. So once we've done some of the missions for the Greatest Warrior, the next thing I want you guys to do for the beginning of the game is head over to the Quest Dokkan Story tab and just start playing quest mode with your newly acquired Ginyu Force team. You guys can see here there are plenty of areas where 1, and then it goes all the way up to area 36 at this point. So plenty of stones in here. I believe it's close to 1,000 just from this mode alone. In stones from here. So that is what we want to do. We want to play the quest mode and acquire as many stones as possible, which is going to take us into the next step, which is beginning to acquire some summonable characters, as well as building our first few teams that's going to take us into the mid game, right? So that is going to be the big first step. So as a beginner, the first things that I want you guys to do are build your Ginyu Force teams, your Team Bardock team, and then start focusing on quest, because this is going to give us as many stones as possible in order to take the next step into the mid game, which is going to be this section of the video. So now that we are in the mid game, this one's going to be a little bit harder to show visually, but I can for sure explain it to you. Now, what we want to do, what I want you to do is fix your cord, and then we will get right to it. Okay, so now that your Elgato cord works, here's what I want you to do. There are going to be, whenever you're watching this, specific banners that are live in this game. And banners, if you guys don't know, gacha game, this is how you're going to be obtaining the new shiny toys to acquire new characters and build teams via, summonable LRs, summonable TURs. But if you are somebody that is watching this video today, when it is being uploaded, we are currently in the worldwide download celebration, which has 4 very high value banners in the game that's going to help you build teams. So with the stones that we have acquired from quest mode, we want to start summoning on these banners and potentially acquiring the characters on the banners. And then once we have some of the characters on the banners, we want to work on progressing them and building a team with the characters on these banners. That would be, to me, what is the mid game, right? We're starting to be able to formulate teams and work with summonable characters that are going to be helpful for us. We're starting to Dokkan Awaken our characters into TURs. We're starting to Dokkan Awaken our characters into LRs. We're starting to do Easy A's for our other characters for TURs that came out a long time ago, Easy A's for LRs that came out a long time ago, and starting to progress. So the prime example that I will use for this specific video is, let's just say you are a big fan of movie bosses, right? And you wanted to make a movie bosses team. Well, I have the ticket for you. What we will want to do is summon for this version of Broly right here. And if we get this version of Broly, he is going to be a pure movie bosses 200% leader. Again, more of the leader skill percentages and stuff like that. That video is in, that type of explanation is in the beginner's guide. I hope, again, I'm kind of going with the understanding that you know what that is. So we have a 200% leader skill for movie bosses. And if we want to continue down that road, we can get LR Metal Cooler that would work with movie bosses, this version of Broly, Chilai, and Lemo that would work with movie bosses, this version of Turles that would work with movie bosses, and some other characters like that. And then if we acquire this character, what we then want to do is slide up here and start to try and acquire this character. This version of Legendary Super Saiyan Broly, this version of Haruto Garn, this version of Cooler, this version of Legendary Super Saiyan Broly, the TUR. This is how we're going to start working on our mid-game teams. right? Where it's not perfect, you're not going to have all the top end options, and you're not going to be able to clear every event in the game yet, but that is how we're going to be able to get to work on it. And how are we going to be able to Dokkan Awaken our characters if these characters are still in the SSR forms? Well, I'm glad that you asked that, because how we are going to do it is by using our free-to-play Ginyu Force team or our free-to-play team Bardock. And what we want to do to go over there is go over to this events tab right here, go to challenge, and then if we go sort of to the bottom, not even to the bottom, but past all this stuff right here, you can tell that an event is marked as a Dokkan event based on the black box on the left side that says the Dokkan event, right? Like it literally just says it on the screen. But if you want to try it the other way, what we want to go to is team. We want to go to the growth tab. We want to go to awaken and then unfilter this. And then if we want to start, we could go by like SSR and UR and start looking at some of the characters that we have, right? So the game wants me to awaken this version of Pat the Power Kid Goku. What we would want to do is go in here, hold down on this button, and then go over here to the event. And then what I would want you to do is use your free-to-play Team Bardock or free-to-play Ginyu Force that we built earlier, hit the refresh button, go in here, and start playing the event. Now, you're going to be able to play it on auto mode for the most part, and you're going to be fine because Dokkan events don't hit too hard, and that is how you're going to be able to get to work with doing these Dokkan events and farming up our teams. So, mid-game is beginning to acquire new characters and then Dokkan Awaken them via their Dokkan events and whatever it may be, right? That is sort of the sign of a mid-game player. You're able to do you're able to start clearing Dokkan events, you're able to start forming teams, and then when you're able to start forming teams, when we have competent teams that are fully done, there's synergy amongst the bunches, you're going to be able to start taking steps into the introductions to difficult content. And with that, I would say we could do the Dokkan event boss rush when you have like a good team ready to go, right? For the mid game, these are going to be a ton of stones you're going to be able to farm up here, and it's just going to be a bunch of Dokkan events back to back to back that's going to give you a lot of stones and help you out, right? When we do that, that's going to be a good sign that we are making progress, right? Then, the next thing that we could look at is something like the Fighting Legend Goku. If you have a team with moderately new characters, you are going to absolutely stomp this event. This came out in, I want to say, 2019, so it is not designed for power creep of characters that were released in 2024. And if we have just a semblance of a good team, we are going to be absolutely just run through this, right? And that is going to be a good start for you at mid-game, and it's going to be, like I said, kind of your introduction to the mid-game to end-game content, right? Stuff like this. And that is sort of where we wrap up with the mid-game section, right? We're able to do a lot of stuff, but now what I want to talk about, once we're done doing all of that, we have some of our teams. What is the sign that you're at the end game in Dokkan, right? And what should your focus be? Well, the focus of the mid-game is just to keep acquiring stones and summoning for more characters and trying to obtain as many characters as we can get. And then with that, we are going to be able to start building teams in order to tackle all the different content that the game has to offer. But once we are to the end game, this is going to be players that have plenty of teams ready to go, and we were looking to just start maximizing the teams that we have, right? I think a good example of this is the global doesn't really like match the status of what the JP is for me. So I'm going to pull up the JP account really quickly. Again, the game is not going to be in English, but I will be able to explain what I'm talking about a little bit better. So let's head over to JP so I can explain this concept. Okay, so now we are over here on JP Dokkan. You can tell by the rank and the Zenny that this account is a little bit further along than the global account. The stones are a little bit lower, but that is because of a concept that I'm going to be talking about now that we are over here in the end game. So, what does end game Dokkan look like? How do you know that you're at the end game, right? You know that you're at the end game of Dokkan when you're able to clear out, do all types of missions for difficult content, and beat things as they come out, right? You're not working towards like a goal to build a team. You already have the team and you're able to start doing specific things in order to buff the teams that is at like the rate of what the game is dropping, right? So for an example, right, here's the best way that I could describe this, right? Like if we just filter by any random category, right? I know what some of these are, but not all of them. And if we just filter, I'm just going to go up and down and boom, we're just going to hit this one, this category right here, right? You can tell when I click it that there are going to be LRs that are done, awakened TURs that are at level 140, rainbowed characters, stuff of the sort, right? Where you can tell that there are plenty of options to run on a team, and then a bunch of characters that we have summoned in the past are like, you know, just working on, right? And then if we filter out again, right, we just reset the filter and then we go again, just scroll up, scroll down. I'm not even looking specifically. We'll just press that one, the revenge category. I know which one that is. You can see that there are LRs and TURs and rainbowed characters. And it's going to look like this for literally any category I press, right? And this is not to brag. This is just to explain the process of what Endgame looks like, right? Am I missing LR still? Yes. Do I have every unit in the game? No. Just because you don't have all the characters in the game does not mean that you are not at endgame, right? So that's kind of the idea that I want to get across, where you're going to be able to build a team for any category. You're hopefully going to have a leader for that category. You're going to be able to do all of the content that the game is going to throw at you. And if you can't do it right now, if you get lucky or you use items, you will also be able to clear it at some point, right? That is the sign that you were at endgame. But when you are at the endgame, what do you do, right? I think that's a fair question to ask, and I'm going to try to explain it as well as I can. When you are at endgame, I'm going to assume that when you're in this stage, you have begun to do all of these different events, right? Like your free-to-play stones are basically tapped out. You've done all of these things. You've done your super strikes. You've done the story events. You've gotten all the stones from these. You've done the missions, right? I'm missing a few, but that's just because like they're not important. Like I don't care about this. Like that's like those are just resources that I don't need right now. And if I need them, I can go get them. And you guys can just see like by all the completes and missions and stuff like that we're pretty far along, right? Like there's some nonsense down here that I haven't done, but again, not important resources. We look at specific missions like this. It's a whole lot of complete, right? That's how you know you're at endgame. And what we need to focus on when we're at the endgame is maximizing our teams. Like I said, easying all of our characters, maximizing their hidden potential to the furthest that we can. So if you have 3 copies of a character, filling out all those hidden potential nodes and stuff like that. Now, one thing that I have not mentioned yet, once you are in the endgame, I think this matters the most, but link leveling your characters as well. So if we go over to my tab, currently I have 492 of like 780 characters that I have Dokkan awakened, and you can tell just by looking what the focus is at, right? Every LR currently that I own on the JP is max link level, right? A lot of easy ATURs. You can see that we have like a lot of our characters at the maximum potential that I can have them barring the summons, right? Like sometimes there's nothing you can do. You just can't pull like dupes for a character, but you have them to the best of your ability, right? You want to maximize the potential that the character has, give them as many hidden potential nodes as possible, max out their links, and you're going to be good to go. And with that, we are going to be able to formulate teams that are required to take out events. We're trying to build stuff that's close to the best teams in the game, and that is how we are going to be moving forward. Now, one thing that we need to focus on, especially when we reach the end game and the stone count is not just unlimited, like it feels like at the beginning of the game, in the middle of the game, where it's just like, yeah, I'll do 1,000 here, I'll do 1,000 there, right? It's going to become much tighter once we reach the end game, and especially if you are prioritizing being free to play. When you are being free to play, this is going to help. This philosophy is going to help you out a ton. We only want to summon when we have high value banners that are going to help out our accounts and do the most for us. Now, the worldwide download celebration is going to be a very good example of banners that are high value, because there's a good chance, especially if you're at the end game, that you're missing 1 or 2 of the characters on these banners, or their LRs that you do not have done, right? Like I said, just because you're in the end game doesn't mean you just have all these characters done, right? Especially if you're somebody who's free to play. These are going to be the times that we want to spend our stones. And in the end game, if we can manage and keep that way, keep that discipline and only summon when we really need to, that is going to help us, because we're going to have more stones stacked up for these major celebrations, right? Throwing stones at every banner, I definitely would say, is like the worst thing that we can do, especially when we're in the end game, because the amount of stones that we have is now very finite, and we don't want to be wasting them as much as we possibly can. So, like I said, marks of being able or knowing you're in the end game. Like I said, you're going to be able to formulate and build teams according to the category, and you're going to be able to make competent teams for just about every category in the game. We're going to be able to clear easy A's to high levels and make sure that we get all of the stones that we can from here. This could be mid-game if you have one really good team. Like on my Zero to Hero account, I have a really good superheroes team, which can basically do all of these easy A's to a certain extent, right? You do have to keep that in mind, so that is how these kind of work, right? Being able to clear easy A's all the way to the max, and then give ourselves the best chances to have, like, you know, good units, right? So do keep that in mind. This is going to be a mark of you being at endgame, when you're able to do all of these easy A's as they come out, and you're going to be able to stay on top of what the game is doing, right? You're not catching up all the time. You're on a schedule with the releases that the game's putting out. So let's just say, for example, right, we go to the top of this list. They do Easy A Trunks and Go 10, right? You're going to be able to do Easy A Trunks and Go 10 as it comes out, rather than working and building up your account all the way up to be able to clear this. You're just going to be able to do it when it comes out. That's kind of the sign that you're at the end game, right? Now, another thing I need to mention, we haven't really talked about it, is some of the difficult content you're going to be able to do. Every single stage is not the standard, right? Just because you don't have like all of the missions cleared or all of these stages, like for blue zones and red zones and supreme magnificent battles and all those different things, just because you can't clear all those stages does not mean you're at the end game, or you're not at the end game, right? But one thing that I would like to mention is the concept of Super Battle Road and Extreme Super Battle Road. These are going to be two marks to tell that you are starting to get into the end game when you are able to clear all of these out. Because there's like, over 60 stages of these, all specifically geared towards different categories. And when you notice that you're able to start doing all of these stages without it being like really restricted, you're like, oh yeah, I have a team for this, I have a team for that, right? That is sort of like the sign that you are in the end game. And once you are in this end game, the biggest focus that you need to pay attention to is stone management, stone conservation, and not just throwing stones at every single banner because there's a shiny new toy on it, right? That is how you're going to be able to sustain and progress your account in further ways that you did not expect prior, being able to sort of be disciplined with your stones. Now, the last sign and the last thing I want you to do when you reach the end game is make sure you are playing Dokkan Battlefield. Now, currently the mode is down because it's the worldwide download celebration, but this is a mode where you're going to be building like mono teams of typings, and once you realize that you have like 112 good units to bring in there, which is the maximum amount that you can bring, that is a sign that you are in the end game. So there we have it, the Dokkan account progression guide. Little things that you should know, little things that you can work on. Just if you want to look at some of these teams that I've built here, UI Goku is my glaze-like display unit that I have just because he's my GOAT. I wonder if you guys could tell. But you guys can just kind of see some of the teams that we're working with here. Ignore the team names. That was for a thing like years ago, or for like a year ago. But you guys can see that we have a lot of variety with teams, and they're not all looking the same, right? Some of them are done, some of them are not. And you guys can just kind of get the idea, right? Like, endgame Dokkan does look a little bit different from mid-game to early-game Dokkan, and I hope that this video was kind of able to give you sort of a pseudo, like, hand-holding process for how you can manage and evaluate where you're at and how you can go to the next level. To go from mid-game to end-game, start working on all of the characters that you summoned on, and to go from beginning game to mid-game, start forming a couple teams and then clearing events. That would be my best advice to you, and I wish you luck in your journey through this game. Again, if you are confused by anything that I was talking about, a beginner's guide will be down below in the pinned comment, and then there will also be a guide to farm stones if you need help with that as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's guide. If you did, don't forget to leave a like before you go, and subscribe if you are new. We are on the road to 10K, and we are almost there. I believe we're getting pretty close to like 100 subs to 10K, so that's really, really exciting. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you all in the next one.